I'm also a graphic designer. Alright. Can you hear me clear?
Yeah,
Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
I said my name is Anderson Anyadike.
you. Okay.
I'm a beginner,
Okay.
and I'm
Um,
also a graphic designer. So I live in Lagos State.
okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Next up, I think Emmanuel. Emmanuel, can go ahead. Emmanuel, can you hear me? Or is it Emmanuel? That's Emmanuel now. Is this what's Emmanuel? Okay. I guess we'll go on with the next person. Oh, can you hear me now? Can you speak? Okay. Go ahead. How do I pronounce this name now? Oparu. Sorry if I murder that name. Sorry. Oparugo or Oparaugo.
Akparugo.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning.
Yes. Yeah. Good morning.
My name is Oparugo. I'm a beginner. I stay in Lagos. I'm a printer.
Okay. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Emmanuel, are you? It seems like you're muted now. Are you ready? Okay. If not, Taiwo, you can go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Udufuwa Taiwo. I'm a beginner and I stay in Lagos.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So I'm quite aware that we are way more than this, right? Should be about 40 of us or so in total. But we only have 4 persons here or 5. So what I will just say from first off is so far this is like the 3rd week. So we should have actually covered a lot of things already. That's why it was important that we set a virtual meeting today. So we can introduce the course, lay some foundation, lay some perspective, and from there we'll push on from there. Because there's actually a lot of things that have not been covered that should have been covered by now. And like I said before, that's very important. So missing a meeting is not really advisable. If you know people in the group, maybe people you know personally or familiar with, please just try and encourage yourselves to actually be available, because I won't really go over this thing again, right? So please, let's try and be available for all our meetings. So we're going to be having 2 meetings every week. We're going to be having a virtual session and a physical one. But more details will be shared with you concerning that physical meeting and the virtual one. But we're going to be having 2 meetings every week. The goal really is that we want to see how we can best prepare you for the final month of internship that people will be having. And even beyond that, actually to be able to have that experience, and actually go out and say, yes, I am an animator, I can get jobs, I'm capable. Like I said, 3 months is not really enough. Practically speaking, nobody learns everything they know in 3 months. No, but I think it's okay to set a foundation. And that's why I would encourage you that even beyond what I teach today or beyond what you learn from the curriculum, from the portal, try and make it a habit to personally, go out and have the experience by getting some of those materials, practicing, watching videos. Really, that's really what can really benefit you, more than what's going on right now. So please, okay, let me admit them all. Okay, all right. So So let me just lay some foundation. So this is the I'm sure we all applied for the program. This is the animation course in the 3MTT by Afrilearn. So it's a 3 months program. Starting this month. And we're going to end in March. So basically, the first month that has been laid down in terms of our curriculum, in terms of the one that has been set for us in the animation course, is going to be a foundational course. So we're going to go over the basics of animation, the foundations. Now, mind you, what I'm trying to achieve at the end of these 3 months is that because we're going to have, physical classes, hands-on experience. So it's not going to be so much of theory per se. It's going to be very practical. So I'm sure we all have, I'm guessing it was a requirement. So that we have laptops, and we can actually run these things because, mind you, we're not going to be having like so much talk in our classes. It's going to be really very practical. I'm going to talk about something and I'm going to demonstrate it. I'm going to show you how to use certain things. It's not even going to be like a traditional, maybe explanation, but maybe at the first, because this is just our first class, we might not have too much of that, but just trying to lay the foundation that, this is really what I want to achieve. And even beyond the curriculum, I sort of set it up in a way that what will be done every week, there's going to be a lot of hands-on, practical sessions in class, and also take away assignments as well that I would encourage I would also do. So that even after we leave the class, we can go home and research, go home and practice, and then come back next week with what we've done. That's going to be how we're going to keep track every week. So, like I said, it's beyond the curriculum that you have on your portals. It's beyond the thing that you're seeing there. So I want to really be very practical. So at the end of this program, hopefully, my goal or my desire is that at least each of us would say, okay, I have a foundation in animation, and I can actually take certain tasks. I can create something meaningful. And it depends on how much you put in that you get, right? If you just put in the bare minimum, you will just be an average person and maybe just have little experience. But if you actually go the extra mile, do all the assignments, do all the research, or read all the courses, then that's when it will actually benefit you a lot. So I'm just here to assist you, and hopefully make something worthwhile. So the second month is going to be a deeper dive into the animation, and then the last month is going to be the one that we have internship. So, but even then, we're going to see how our portals open, so we can have ask questions. I'm going to lay down everything, but I'm just trying to tell you that, okay, for these 3 months, it's going to be hands-on work. There are going to be a lot of assignments, things like. And I would also encourage us to collaborate with our teams. Let's say you have questions, feel free to ask on the group. Or you saw your colleague do something that you know how he did it. Ask him, right? We learn by community. We learn faster in a community of like-minded people. So yes, please feel free. Okay, so I guess from now, we would begin. So before I move on, do you have any questions? Before I move on to proper. Yes.
My question I want to ask is that, like now, what the laptop that we're needing for the practical aspect. Like now, my own, I only have Core i3, and it's about 4 gig RAM. I don't know if the software we are installing will be compatible with the Core i3.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to cover a lot of softwares in this program or in this curriculum. We're going to touch on After Effects, Blender, Character Animator, Adobe Animate, and some others. Now that's going to be largely dependent on, I'm sure, like I said, we already have laptops. But even if, for whatever reason, your laptop doesn't support certain softwares, it doesn't work. Well, it's not the end of the world. We also have other things that we're going to touch on.
Sorry, please. I
Uh,
have good morning. Please. Good morning, sir.
yeah, good morning.
Okay, so my system is not able to acquire anything. It's just it's Pentium core actually. But initially I have an 8 gig RAM system before, but I've just before this class it packed up the board. So, but for the other system I have, which is Pentium core, I have a Blender on it already. So I don't know if there will be other software that we use that we kind of be able to stay on it. So if it's only Blender we're using, let me know so that at least so that we'll know and know what you're going to install.
Yeah, okay. So let me just be very. Oh, someone's mic is. Can you mute? I'm hearing an echo somewhere. Okay. Um. So first things first. Let me just first lay the foundation. We are not going to really delve so much on software. So what I will try to do is to teach the art of animation, because animation is more than software, right? If you
Yeah.
learn foundation of animation, you can apply that in any software. So even if we might touch on maybe certain softwares that might not be compatible with your system, it doesn't mean that you can't still apply that knowledge somewhere else, right?
Okay.
So let's say you don't have a good system, but it doesn't mean that you can't run any at all. It's I mean, so by the time we begin to learn animation as an art itself, not just a software, you know, then that knowledge can be passed across to any software. So that's why even if we discuss some of the principles of animation today, and let's say you want to use a different software that we are not even using here, it's allowed. That's why I say it really depends on how much effort you put into it, how much research you put, you know. So this is just the foundation. So I'm not really going to dwell too much on software this, although I'm going to teach, certain things in softwares. But even if you can't do that, there are other alternatives. So
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions? So can kick off. Okay. So I assume that we are all good. So I can go ahead. Okay, so let me just talk about what we discussed today. So this is more like an introductory class. Like I said, this is already third week. We've missed many things actually. So um as much as I can, I will try and summarize and sort of um bring to light things that we should have talked about before now. Um yeah, so first things first, we'll talk about um the 12 principles of animation. Um, we'll talk about the 12 principles of animation today. Then we'll also talk about we would introduce some softwares to us today, and we'll introduce After Effects, Adobe After Effects. I would also introduce Blender as well. Then yeah, from there I would share some extra resources that you should probably have. Maybe after the class, go home, research, read about it. That could also help you, um, you know, in this foundational aspect of learning animation. Okay, so let me let me share my screen. Just give me a minute. Okay. Let me know if you can see my screen. Just confirm if you can see. Can we can we see my screen? Is it
Yes,
visible?
I can see from this from my phone, yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay, so like I said, as much as possible, I won't really go too much into theory as much as I can, because the essence of these sessions are more to be practical than theory. I guess the theory would be discussed in your portals where you read and watch. But so I think I actually even skipped something very important. So the goal of these sessions are going to be very practical, because at the end of this program, we're going to have a capstone project that we'll all have to present at the end of this course. So that would mean that that project is going to encompass everything that we are taught in this program, all the theories, the things, little things that will be taught. It's going to now help us create something meaningful at the end of the program. So where you can actually apply all the knowledge that you've learned so far and create a project. So we're going to actually have a capstone project by the end of the second month. That's the agenda. So this is already the first month. So by the end of February, we should have our capstone project ready, right? Now, like I said, what is it going to be about? It's just going to be about what I'm teaching you right now, right? So it's going to touch on several aspects. And I want us to just be very, will I say, creative, open. I'm going to share it with us quite soon, so we can begin to prepare our minds and maybe start working towards it, right? But like I said, as we have our classes each week, we'll build upon certain principles, build upon knowledge, and eventually we will now have we should, by the end of February, we should have the capstone project ready, right? And we will also have a week, the last week of February, we're going to just have that week to work on the project, right? So, but even before then, you can just begin to think about how you go about it, things like that. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so I think first of all we'll talk about we'll define animation. So what exactly is animation? Like what is this? What is animation? What are we talking about? Because I guess the goal is that we will all be animators at the end of this program. You can say, yes, I'm an animator. So what is even an animation, right? What is it? So an animation is basically, literally, it's a sequence of images, right? It's a sequence of images that create the illusion of movement, basically. That's just a very simple definition. I don't know how many of us, when we were quite young, we used to have this. I did it back then. We used to have this on my notebooks in school, primary school. I would draw some of all this funny stuff at the edge of the book. So by the time I flip the book, it sort of creates a form of motion, right? I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say, but there's something that or maybe not all of us, but some of us might be able to relate. We just maybe draw a stick figure, we draw down the next page, draw down again, draw down again, and then by the time we take that book and we flip it, it sort of creates this illusion of movement, right? So that's a simple illustration of what animation is. But basically animation is just an illusion. Right? It's an illusion. how it's created is by overlaying series of images, in sequence. So I think the earliest example of animation is Egypt. They had this instrument where things would be. If I can pull up an image of that. So they had this instrument that created this illusion of animation as well. So how it's done is that the human eye sort of perceives, it can be fooled into perceiving animation, because when you have several images and then you change them quickly over time, it does something to the human eye. The human eye sort of interprets it as motion. So let's say you have a character standing still, just standing, head on. Then you have a next image of him raising his hand. If you were to flip those images quickly, the human eye and the brain would sort of interpret that as motion, and some even at times it could even fill in the gaps of what you think happened in between that motion. Okay, so maybe what I would begin to do now, let's see. So just ignore what they call it, ignore my my software. Forget, I'm not talking about software today. I'm just talking about animation itself. So ignore whatever you're seeing now. But I want to explain something. So we're trying to define animation in a very simple term. So let's say we have a blank piece of paper like we have here, and then we just have a ball. We have a ball. So imagine this is a white piece of paper that you just tore from your notebook. You have a ball like this, right? It's just a circle. This is one piece of paper. Now, what I will do is that I will now, let's say you now cut another piece of paper from your book, right? Let's have another new piece of paper. And then on this paper, we're going to have the ball, let's say, move down like this, right? So the first one was like this, second one was like this, right? Now, simply what animation? Okay, let's put one last one. Let's put a third piece of paper. Let's say we'll draw another one like this, right? So we have three separate images, right? We have 1, 2, and 3. Now, what happens is that when I switch these images, like when I switch them, like 1, 2, 3, when I increase the speed, right, at which these things are played, it creates a sense of motion. Even if there are 3 separate images that have not to do with themselves. This is one image, another image, and a third image. But because of the way the human eye works and the brain works, it sort of interprets this as motion. And it even helps us create, like in between motion. So it's sort of guessing that, okay, maybe this is something that is moving in this direction. I'm sure if you look at this, you are probably seeing something moving. There's no way you are seeing them separately. It's like as if you are seeing a ball maybe bouncing or something, right? So that's how the human eye works. And that's how the brain works. So that's how animation can actually be possible, because of that flaw in quotes of the human brain. So we're having images, you know, simultaneously changed that create the illusion of motion, right? So I'm sure this is very clear. Um, this ball or this circle was not moving. Neither is it moving here. Neither is it moving here. But when you put them together and you change them over time, it creates a sense of motion. So that is what animation is. It's a sequence of images, you know, that creates a sense of motion or an illusion of motion, basically. So that's a very simple definition. Okay. I think that's very clear. So I will move on to the next thing. So now we're going to talk about what are some examples of animation, right? What, I'm sure you hear about maybe 3D animation, 2D animation, stop motion animation, things like that. Like, what are those? What is that? Right. So I just explained the foundational principle that animation actually is built upon. Now, the way that you express that is dependent on the medium you use, right?
Yes.
Now what I just did now was just a sequence of drawings, right? I drew it on a flat piece of paper, you know. So now we'll start with the first 2D animation. What is 2D animation? It's literally the same what I just showed you right now. It's creating a sense of motion on a flat surface, or that doesn't have depth. Now, what I'm saying is just the foundation, and there are actually there are deeper levels of this. There's even what they call 2.5D, but I'm just talking about the foundational, beginner aspect. So we can just have a foundational aspect. We'll go deeper. So, but 2D animation just talks about um, animation that is done, on a flat surface, you know, on a flat surface. Flat doesn't have depth. I'll give some examples, or some practical examples that maybe we know. I'm sure we've all watched Tom and Jerry before. Growing up, maybe we know Tom and Jerry, right? That cartoon, very popular, the cat and the mouse. That's 2D. That's a 2D animation, right? Let me see. I don't know how many of us watched Flintstones. I don't know, maybe that's too old. The Flintstones, that's also 2D animation. Let me see. Powerpuff Girls. Which there are so many examples. So there's a certain way it looks. How the certain look, um, and a certain feel to it. But I think more than the look, it's the way it was created, right? The way you create 2D animation is by working on flat surfaces. You see that when I was drawing that, I was not moving the camera around. There was no camera. There was no depth. If I have to create depth, it will just be an illusion that I will create. It's not actually depth, because there's no depth. It's not 3D. It's flat. It's just like on a blank piece of paper. So that's what 2D animation is, creating that sort of illusion of motion on a flat piece of paper, on a flat surface, right? So there are so many of them, so many of them. So now let's now talk about 3D animation. So what's now the difference between 3D and 2D? The difference between 3D and 2D is that 3D now adds a level of depth. From the name it implies, three-dimensional. It means it has length, breadth, and depth, right? So you can actually sort of have a virtual, sort of like a 3D space, a virtual space, right? I will also demo that too. Now, I guess one of the most important things too is not just the way it looks, but how it was created. Now, you create 2D animation with, softwares that support 2D animation, like what I just did now. In fact, you can even use a paper, a blank piece of paper, like how I talked about, like in school when we were younger, play with all these flip books on our notes, just draw different random things, and from there we just flip it, and you see some form of movement. So we can actually use paper. We can use paper. I think when I started off my own animation back then, I used to use. I remember back then, like when I was younger, I bought this this A4 paper, like reams of paper, right? So I'll get it, then I'll draw on the first paper, move to the second paper, draw something else, right? And just keep drawing like that, changing it in small, 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 till when I now, flip it, there's some form of motion, right? Like what I explained and showed for you just now. It's just an illusion of motion, right? So you can actually use you don't even need any software. Even till now, one of the biggest animation industries, the Eastern animation, industry, is still use majorly paper. They have papers, pencil and paper, and they animate, right? So you don't necessarily need to even have a software or a laptop actually to be an animator. You just need to know how to animate. Then the medium is dependent on you. You can use anything to animate, anything, any single thing, anything. So 3D now. So let me give another example. So this what I'm showing you now. This is 2D animation because it's on a flat piece of paper, right? Now what I'm going to do, you can see that I can't rotate around anything. It's just a flat piece of paper, right? Now let me now show an example of 3D. Now this, for example, is now a 3D. It's a 3D environment. Why? Because now it actually has depth. I can rotate around this object. I can look at it in different angles. Now you can see the major difference. This one now is just flat. I can't. It's just I can just really draw things like that. I can't really go around anything. It's just flat like a paper. But this other one is different because I can actually rotate around this object. You can see it now. It's actually round. You can even see a camera here, a virtual camera. So this is actually now working in the 3D space. And just the same way I was able to create sequence of images from the other one, I can as well do the same thing here, where, for example, I have this box at this position, right? Then on another frame, I could just decide, okay, let me move this object in this direction, right? Let's say next up, let me move it up like this, for example. So we have three different motion. Same way we had the other one, we had three too. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. Right? So if I also were to play it, it would sort of look like it's moving, right? Now the major difference between 3D and 2D most of the time is because 3D has a feature where they call it auto splining or auto in between. Now the other 2D animation that I was just doing now, I didn't have this feature. But what I can do actually in 3D, which is why people usually use 3D now. If you watch most of all these Disney cartoons here and there, you see that they don't really draw things anymore. They make use of 3D because it's actually easier to do. Funny enough, many people hear 2 and 3, they feel like because it's 2D, it means 2D is less, it's easier. Then you now have 3D, it's so difficult. Then you now have 4D, like almost, but it's not actually true. Because 3D actually has a lot of benefits. One major one is because you don't have to draw anything. All you have to do is just keyframe, what they call keyframe. That's setting the position per time, which is 1, 2. Like what we have here now, this is the first frame, second frame, third frame. Just forget the software. I'm not talking about software. I'm just talking about animation itself, the principle of animation. So now, what we now have here is that we have, let me open up this. So this is a very good example. You can see 2D here, 3D here. This one was drawn, right? It was drawn on a flat surface. This one was actually a 3D model that you can go around, right? So that's the difference. So even beyond the look, because actually some 3D can look like 2D, but what makes it 3D is not really the look, but how it was created, right? Something like this now, it might look flat now because I'm not rotating it, but I can actually go around it. But this other software, I can't go around anything. I'm stuck with just a flat surface. So now the same way we keyframe that, we can also keyframe something here too. And have a form of animation. You can see how it's moving. We end it here. You see, from just those three keyframes that we gave it three keyframes, which is first one is here, second and third. What it now helped us create in between. It helped us fill in the gap that we now have this motion. So that's the fundamental basic of animation, and especially when it comes to 3D animation. So, but we are still using the same principles. The principles are, it's just an illusion. It's not actually moving. It's just an illusion, right? So that's 3D animation. We'll also go in depth into some of these things more, So, but for now, I think that's sufficient in explaining what it is. Then we also have several types, even besides what I talked about now. But I will just talk about the very, very basic. For example, now this is also another example of 3D and 2D, 2D, 3D. You probably get the idea now. Okay, so now we also have what they call stop motion animation. Stop motion. That simply means, like I said, animation can be done in any medium. Any medium. You don't have to draw to be an animator. Most people in the industry, I have that question a lot. People are like, man, for me to be an animator, I have to know how to draw, and they're like discouraged. That means, I never knew how to draw when I was small. I'm not an artist, so that means I can never be an animator. And I would say it's not true, because most of the people, even in the industry, they don't even know anything about drawing. I mean, it will help you, right? Well, if you want to be an animator, you can actually be an animator. You don't have to draw anything. You can do 3D animation, where we just position 3D objects like a puppet, right? You have characters like puppets and you move them. So once you understand animation, like what is animation, like how does it work? What are some principles that make something a good animation and a bad animation? You can apply that in any field, in motion graphics, character animation, 2D animation, whatsoever. So now, when we talk about stop motion now, we're talking about usually making use of real world objects, right? And making them have an illusion of motion, the same way we also do with 2D. So, for example, I don't know if you've watched some of all this, there are a lot of all these, children cartoons that they show, where it's as if the thing is a real life, it's as if it's a real life thing. I don't know how to explain it. Okay, let me see if I can show some examples. But let me give you so I'll also give you this as a takeaway. Try it and see, right? Just try it and see. So now, just give me a minute, sorry. Okay, so we have stop motion. It just simply means, as the name implies, you have a real life object. Let's say you have your biro, your book, right? And then it's at a position. It's at a position. Let me see if I can even demonstrate something. So. Okay. I will share a resource for us after this class, so we can go and watch several videos on what I'm talking about. But basically, we have, just imagine you had let me see now. Imagine you had a pen on your table. Just a real life pen, not 3D, like real life. Just the way even your phone. Let's say you have a phone on your table, and then you take a picture of that phone on the table. Then you will now move the phone just a little bit, take another picture again. You move it a little bit, you take another picture again. You move a little bit. So you keep moving it and taking pictures of the new images. What will happen is that if you were to take all those images, right, and were to play them the same way we play these drawings individually, you would have a sense of motion. It will look as if it will look as if it's moving, whereas it's not actually moving. Do you understand? So it's like you have several images of a real life object. But what you do is that each time you just move it slightly. What will happen is that it will give you that same effect of what we had here with this ball here. It will look as if it's moving, but it's not actually moving, obviously. So that's kind of a summary of what stop motion is. And that's why I've met many stop motion animators, even in Nigeria. Some of them have gotten international recognition, you know. And funny enough, I don't know, I just find it's very interesting that most of stop motion animators in Nigeria are actually females. So maybe that's something that, if you're a lady here, maybe that's a call. I don't know, but I'm just saying. I noticed that many stop motion animators are actually ladies, but that's along the way. So, but I'm just saying that you don't necessarily need to know how to draw, or even need to have a software or a laptop to be an animator, right? Anything that your hand can lay hold on, you can animate it. Even your body, you can animate your, like, literally anything that you can think about, you can animate with it. You can animate your anything. So let your mind begin to go wild, begin to explore and just think bigger than just, oh, let me install one software. So no, it's more than that. It's an art. Animation is an art. By the time it's almost like you are a scientist, like a psychologist, where you can sort of deceive the brain, and make it, to the point where people watch these things and they start crying, they have emotions, they're thinking about their childhood. How were they able to do something like that with just random images, But, that's why when you understand how animation works itself, even if it's a circle, even if it's a line that you're animating, when people finish watching that your line, they will know that, yes, in fact, some people can even begin to think about their life, like, oh, more, what am I doing in my life? The line will just give them life lesson. So it's more than just, saying, I want to download Blender and download this one. No. It's more than that. It's a story. It's an art. It's a craft. So whatsoever you can lay your hands on, you can actually animate it, right? So that's just a very, very brief expression of what animation is. It's way more than that. There are actually other forms of animation that can sort of be like subcategories of each of these, right? For example, there are times where people combine these crafts together, like they combine 3D and 2D animation. And some people call it 2.5D because, it's as if the 2D now has depth. There are many other examples. I'm just giving you very, very outline examples: 2D animation, 3D animation, and stop motion. Very simple. Very, very simple. So before I continue, do you guys have any questions? Because I want to be interactive before I really begin to go into some practical stuff. So any questions, anything you want to ask, please feel free before I move on.
Please, are you still sharing your screen? I can't see it again.
Let me check that. Okay, yeah, you can stop sharing. Yeah. Okay, so yes. Questions? Any question? Okay, so I assume that we have gotten, what I said. So we'll continue from there. Okay. My
I have a question.
Okay, yeah.
You talked about stop motion.
Yes,
Hello,
stop
are you?
motion. Yeah.
Is he animating like object and other stuff, or is it same thing you like animate? You can animate something like like this advert. I watch like now, Chivita. products. I saw when their like now their Tetra pack is moving. Is that what kind of animation is that one? Is it a stop motion or 3D animation? Was it
Okay.
that they animated their Tetra pack at the pack of that where you have that juice? So the thing is about shaky kind of effects and all that.
Okay. I think I know as what you're saying. Well, um, that would depend on. I'll have to watch it to see how it was created. Because it could actually it's most likely 3D animation though. Yeah, because you can actually model that in 3D and just put it on top of the real life video. But
Oh,
maybe what I will do is that okay, let me see if I can. I will share many resources so you can actually go and look at some of the examples. So you can really understand what I'm saying. Um, but let me see if I can open this video on YouTube. Let me see. So come. Okay, I guess I can use this just for this example. So we have like this video now. Let me. Okay, just watch this. Now we can see, I feel something is moving like a snake or something, right? We all can see something is moving. Now, okay, but how was this thing created? This is literally cardboard paper, as you can see, cotton wool, right? And they
yes.
just use maybe a phone to snap it. Now, but how they created it, how they made it look as if it's moving was the same thing we talked about before, which is um, taking these shots. This is one shot, for example. This is one shot. Like they literally took it as a picture, right? And then
Mm,
they moved the object just a little bit, right? And they took another picture again. They moved it just a little bit again. They took another picture. They moved a little bit in, they took another picture. So they kept moving it and they kept taking separate pictures, right? Um, so when you now play it, it now looks as if it's moving.
okay. Wow.
When you play the images together, it looks as if it's moving, but it's not actually moving. They're just separate images. So it's more like people usually use it for like I will share those links. Like I said, if you watch some of them, you see that some of them maybe that is in toys, maybe real life toys. They will just have the toy maybe standing. They will take a picture. Then maybe they will raise the hand a bit. Then they will take another picture. Then they will now maybe do something else or something. So when they play those images together, it now looks as if the toy is alive, is moving, right? But you can sort of tell, I don't know. There's a way it looks. You can say, oh, this is actually stop motion animation. There's a way it looks somehow, but it's a style of animation too, and it's also very, very, very recognized as well. But that's just something you can do without even having a laptop, right? Yeah. So I will also give that as sort of assignment. But I will talk about that later on. Um, but just so that you can go home and research, play with it, and see what you can come up with. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. No other questions, and I'll continue. Okay. So, like I said, after this call, we're going to have I'm going to share with you several links, resources. You can also go back home and research and read about and watch. But I'm giving you specific. I know I'm giving you specific resources, but now this is actually very, very, very helpful. So I will recommend that you actually go through them, and not just ignore it, because it will actually help you a lot. For example, there's a book that I'll recommend, which is this book, The Animator Survival Kit. Just take this book like what's the word now? Like the animation Bible. Let me just put it like that. Every animator, or every actual not roadside, every professional animator has read this book. So I would just recommend that you just go through the book. Maybe I'll share the ebook on the group. Talks about animation, just breaks down everything soon. And there are also many other books, but I recommend this one as well, primarily. Okay, so what will happen now is that I'm going to talk about what they call the 12 principles of animation. Now, this is how we bring animation to life, or how we bring images to life, right? And it's going to be very interesting because this is what separates beginners from professionals. Is the basics, actually. How you apply the basics is what separates you from a beginner and an advanced expert animator. How well you can apply these principles. I'll go through each of them, and hopefully would get a little bit more insight on how this works. Okay. Okay. So like I said, from our previous discussion, we can see that animation can actually be done with anything. You can use it, biro, paper, your phone, any software. So now, what will now make me watch your animation? Why will I like looking at your animation? Because I'm sure we've seen certain maybe cartoons or things, and we just doesn't look. It's not interesting. Like it doesn't. You don't feel like watching it, and you might not know why. Right now, this could actually be the reasons why. Because as human beings, the same way we're able to trick the brain that this thing is actually moving, whereas it's not moving, just separate images. You see, we're able to trick the brain into doing that. The same way we can also trick the brain, into liking and enjoying what it's seeing. It's actually very, very simple. There are many, and this was sort of 12 principles were actually developed by what they call the nine old men in Disney. I think in like 18th century or so, when they discovered, actual using animation as an art. So you read it in that book. If you read the book, you understand what I'm saying, but they are all explained well. But these are things that they discovered that, without these things, you can't really have a good animation. I mean, you can just ignore these things and just create any random thing moving around. It's fine. But if you want to make it good and interesting and appealing, you get that. But if you want to be very appealing, these are the things that you have to really look at, when you're animating. It's like a checklist. And the good animators know these things by heart. So they don't necessarily have to go through it and say, oh, does he have anticipation? Does he have this? They just know it, because they have done it several times. So like I said, this what separates the beginners from the experts. How you apply the basics. How you apply the basics. Okay. So we'll talk about the first one. I will just be drawing. I'll just use my drawing instrument here to be showing what I'm talking about. But like I said, this is just a demonstration which you can apply to anything besides drawing. You don't even have to draw it. You can even use real life objects to show these things I'm talking about. But just take it like a foundational, knowledge on this is how this can be. This is how I can apply this principle to something else I'm doing. Right? Okay, so I'll just run through because we actually have this. This should have been like a week of, teachings, but because of the time that we've already missed, I have to just run through them. Then I'll also share more links, resources, so you can also go home and watch it and research. Okay, so but the goal really is that, like I said, I want it that when we're done with this course, we actually have real knowledge, right? That we can apply in a real world example, not just random, I'm sorry, but on that curriculum that we have on that website, it's nice, but it's not focused. There are many random things that are not related, So what I try to do is that I'm trying to make it as comprehensive and focused as possible. So that when you are done, you actually say that yes, I know how to create an animation, right? And now to do this and do this and do. So that's the goal. Okay, so the first principle we have here is squash and stretch. What is that? Okay, let's let me just see it coming. So okay, so let me all right. So now what is squash and stretch? So let's say let's imagine we have a ball or a circular object, right? This is so now I will say certain things that you should probably begin to understand. When I say first frame, a frame is literally a drawing, like an image. So instead of me saying the first image, I just frame. That's what it's called. That's the term is used. That is used frame. So this is frame one. So this is the first drawing. So on frame one, we have a ball or a circle, at this part of the screen. Now I want this ball to fall to the ground, as if maybe it fell and is bouncing. So that's what I want to try and create now, right? Now I will show you something. Let's say we have so I'm going to now create another new image or frame. Um, let me turn on this thing so I can see. Now, I also talk about what they call the light table. The light table is now picture I mean back then when I was still very young, when I used to do a lot of animation on paper, what I did was that I told you I had reams of paper, like many blank A4 paper, just many of them, just so many. I bought a full ream. So what I'll do is that I'll draw on the first paper, right? Then I will now put the paper on a glass table, right? Then under that glass table, I'll put a light or a lamp. Now, when I put a new drawing on top of that paper, I will be able to see the previous drawing. Why? Because there was a light that was shining under the paper, just like this tracing paper, where you can sort of see, you can see what was there before. So now imagine you have a piece of paper where you have something was put on the table. They will have a second paper that was not put on top of that paper. But then for us to see what was on the first one, if you put a light right under those paper, we can actually, because it becomes sort of translucent, we can see between the papers. I don't know if I'm making sense. If you understand what I'm trying to say. Do you guys get it? Can you just any feedback so that I will know if I'm still correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
I'm with
Okay,
you.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
we
you have
get it.
exactly. So you have a paper. So back then I had this glass table. All this maybe living room parlor table that glass. So I'll put the paper on top of that glass table. And I'll have a light under the glass table. So when I shine that light, under the paper, if I put anything on top of that paper, I'll still be able to see what was there before. You understand? So that's what actually is what they call a light table in animation. So you can also jot that down to a light table. That helps you see the previous drawings or the previous frames. So when I want to draw a new frame or a new drawing, I can see what was there before, right? So that's what I'm going to now do on this software now. This is not a software tutorial, like I said. It's an animation tutorial. So just ignore the software, focus on the animation. So there's what they call light table, which can help you see frames before, right? So it can help you as a reference. So now, because I drew this. So I had a new paper now. I want to see what was there before. So I have to enable my light table so that I can see what was there before. So now this is what I drew before. So this is the frame, and this is a new one. I can see what I drew. So let's say the ball is coming down. So let me just say the ball is going to be coming down like this. Quickly, I'll just draw several of them so I won't waste too much time. So let's see. We have to keep coming down, drawing down again, keep coming down. So you can see we are drawing like I've drawn like 5 different images now. But when we play them, it's going to look as if it's coming down. You can see it as if it's dropping, right? Next frame, let me draw. So let's say, let me put a new, let's see. Okay, so sorry, give me a minute. Let me, let's say we have just like I said, please just ignore the software. I want us to focus on the animation now. But let me put a ground. So let's say this is the ground. This is where the ball is going to be bouncing on. That's what I want to just do. Okay, so for here, we have, so when the ball reaches the ground here, this is a new drawing here, like this. No. So let's say the ball just, in fact, let me make it very circular. The next drawing will have the ball bouncing here. So as if the ball went and bounced like this. Another drawing came like this. Another, no, it's another drawing. It came like this. Another drawing. It came like this. Another drawing. It stopped here. So let's watch it. Let's see. Let's see. That's very fast. But we use 12 frames per second. Okay, so you can see. So you can sort of tell that okay, something fell and it's as if it's bouncing, right? So, and just like what I said before, these are all different images. They are not even in any way related. This is one drawing, another drawing, another drawing, another drawing, another drawing. But you can see that when I play it, it looks as if it's moving. So that's what animation is. So now I'm gonna say, okay, the ball is just, it looks very boring, just there, it's just falling, you know. I mean, it's moving, though, right? We can see it's moving. There's no issue, but it just looks boring. So this is where we apply the first principle, which is squash and stretch. So now, what does that mean? What is squash and stretch? Let me delete all these things and start again from the beginning quickly. So what is squash and stretch? Squash and stretch simply means that objects have the capacity to squash and stretch while they are in motion or while they have contact with another object. For example, a ball, a football, let's say, yeah, a football. Let's say the ball is on the air, right? Now, once the ball begins to go down, something can actually happen to it. It can begin to stretch. Because just imagine, let me draw another one. Just imagine, gravity is pushing the ball down. So it's like it's trying to, you know, it's coming down. It's not going to remain with the same volume and the same shape, right? Let me just keep going. So the ball is actually stretching while it's moving, right? It's actually stretching. So you see that the ball is stretching, right? Then when it now hits the ground at this frame, what happened that the ball actually could even squash like this. So this is squashing, it's now squashing, it's not stretching, it's now squashing. So we have squash and stretch. What I will also recommend that you do at times is just look at simple motion around you. If you see a child playing with a ball, or maybe you see someone, running, begin to observe the way they move. You can even go on YouTube and watch what they call slow motion videos. Just watch it. These things happen, but the thing that we don't really pay attention to, we don't really see it happen because we are so busy, But as an animator, you need to begin to observe motion, observe life. And if you can, pause. You watch a video, pause it. How is this thing looking like? If you were to look at a ball, for example, like they hit the ball with so much force and the ball hits a wall, you observe that the ball will not be round. The ball will actually squash. The ball will it will squash because it has had impact, you know. So that momentum has made it adjust the shape, which is what you're seeing here. So, for example, that's how you can apply that in your animation. Not all objects squash and stretch. Like a brick now, a brick, that used to build buildings. It breaks, it doesn't squash and stretch. But some of them actually have this sort of feature, right? So let me finish up the animation. So it has squashed, then from here it will squash out again. It will stretch out again. Then another one, it now begins to, let's say, okay, let me make it a bit more. It begins to retain go back to its normal shape again. You know, from here, and let's say at this frame, it squashes a bit, then it now becomes very round again. Something, let's say it just becomes like this or something. So that's the end. Now let's not play it and see. Right now, you can see that when the ball, hit the let me adjust this one. When the ball hit the ground, you can see that it changed shape. It changed. It looks more bouncy. It looks more, like as if the ball is what's the word now? As if the ball is what this is it Felele I'll call it now. There's this ball that we usually used to play. It
Yeah,
looks
felele.
looks very squishy, right? It doesn't look, so the difference between what we did before now and what we did before and what we did now is that now we apply squash and stretch. So now the ball now looks a bit more interesting, just a little bit more interesting than how it just looked boring, just bah, bah, bah. One thing I will tell you too in animation is that many times we don't really follow life. We observe life, right? But a good animator will tell you that we really try to exaggerate what we see. If you see cartoons, maybe a cartoon character talking, you see that the person is exaggerating. His mouth is moving up and down, is moving left and right. He's exaggerating that motion. That makes things more interesting, right? But I guess we'll get into animation acting later on. But the idea is that you can apply this principle called squash and stretch. So anything, anything. Let's say we have an object, let's say, moving in the wind, right? So as the wind begins to push, what was this? Give me a minute, sorry. Okay, let me disable this a bit. So I guess I'll just move on because I don't want to waste so much time. We're actually short of time now. Okay, so I'll just move to the next one. Let me see. But I'm sure you can understand what I'm saying by squash and stretch. Second is anticipation. What is anticipation? Anticipation means that you can where is this? Let me open the software again. Now I'll give you an example. Let's say we have another object. Move this one back a bit. It's sorry. Okay. All good. All right. So let's try anticipation. Where is I want to start here. So, now let's say we have a character. Let me just do a very quick sketch. Now let's say we have let's use this. Something wrong with this something. Just give me a minute, sorry. You know what? Let's start the project. Okay. All right. So let's say we have a character. You know, I'm just gonna quickly do a quick story. So we have this person, a stick person. He wants to punch, right? He wants to give a punch, for example. And when he wants to punch, you know, he just let me put on my onion skin, my light table. He just punches, for example. He just punches. Wait, that's too fast. Just imagine he's punching, right? Now, it looks very weird. It looks weird because besides the weird drawing, I mean, but besides that, in terms of the motion, you know, when you want to punch someone, if you observe, or you want to do a very big action, you want to throw a ball, something like that. There's what they call anticipation. You anticipate that motion. So a good example is this. Let me delete all this and show you what actually happens when you want to punch someone. What happens is that before you even go front, you go back. So if I want to punch you, I don't just go front. I actually, you know, sort of prepare myself, you know. So it's like I'm sort of preparing to punch. So maybe my hand goes back like this. It's like, you know, I want to punch this guy before you now actually punch. It's sort of like releasing the momentum before you now actually do what you know you thought you were doing. You know, because these things you won't observe them because you might not really pay attention. But that's what actually happens. We um we sort of, you know, do these things subconsciously. Come in. Mm, I don't want to waste so much time explaining all these things, but because we're actually in a hurry, we would have really gone deep into all this, but that's all good. So um uh, okay, let's just end it here. Not to be too long. So this looks more believable than your noun, right? Because there's a way we sort of is the way the human body works. Is the energy, is momentum. Momentum before we do something. Before we throw a ball, we don't just throw the ball. We first take the ball back before we take it front, right? That's why you see that in some of those cartoons like Tom and Jerry, things like that. What happens is that they now exaggerate it to the point where, let's say, the character wants to run forward, the character will now go back first instead of before he goes forward. I'm sure you've probably seen him one of those very funny cartoons like Tom and Jerry. You know, so the character instead of to like run, he will first run back, like prepare, will now go forward. It's the principle of anticipation. They're just exaggerating, right? So before an object moves front, most of the time it gets momentum by going back before or maybe not going back, but it adjusts its position before moving forward, right? So what I will do now, let me see. So I will share this resource with you after this class. I will share this resource with you. Then you can go back and watch it, really, really watch and really observe it, and learn from it. I need to actually help you a lot. To help you a lot. So I'll run through it. Because we really don't have time again. Would have loved if we continued in this space, but we can't keep up with this basically. So we would just move ahead to the next ones. So I'll give you this link and you watch it. So this is an example of squash and stretch, like I said. This is an example of anticipation. Sorry. I'll just make quick comments, So you can see one that has anticipation, one that doesn't have anticipation. This first one, you see that the head went down before it went up. Let me show you. It went down before it went up, but this one just went up. This looks more interesting than this. It's a very subtle thing, but this, like I said, is what makes good animation, and this is what makes bad animation if you don't apply some of these things. So you can see that, for example, now, this is a very, very good example where we have an object or a character which wanted to pick his pocket, he wanted to get something from his pocket. But what happened was that his hand went back before entering the pocket. That's anticipation. It's a very subtle thing that you might not really notice if you don't pay attention. But now, just watch it. You can see how it looks like. It looks okay. Now, this is another one without that motion. It just went straight to the pocket. It looks like it's not, it looks weird. You can see it. This is with it. See, you can see it. It went back. Let me go back again so you can really see what I'm talking about. So you can see it. Right? Then without. That's a slight, very, very slight, but it makes a very big difference. So I won't dwell too much on this. We'll move on to the next one. So this is staging. The next one is staging. So that literally, it depends on, that's literally how you now sit, right? So basically, it's how you frame your action. So people can actually know what's going on. There are times that you, as an animator, you might be doing an animation and people just see things appearing on the screen. They don't know where it came from. Or let's say a character is talking and you're not making two of them to talk at the same time. People will be confused. They don't know who to look at, right? So staging is a process where we actually make it clear to the audience what they should be focusing on at that point in time, right? Just go back home, watch any movie, watch any cartoon. Now observe it. When a character is talking, do you see the other person talking? Most times it's no. One person talks, the second person now talks after that person has finished talking. Most of the time. Because if you were to put everything at the same time, it would make it confusing. People will not know what to focus on. Right? So that's for example, now this example, you see that they had the banana first, the man walked, then the crowd came. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. The eyes are focused on one thing at a time. Now imagine you just put everything at the same time. Your eyes are like moving around, like what am I supposed to look at? That kind of thing. So that's what staging is. It's being able to adjust motion and actions in a way that can make it easy for the audience to really understand and grasp what you want to convey to them. That's staging. So let's move to the next one. Don't want to waste too much time to here. Let's see which one I listed there next. Where are you? Okay. So we have straight ahead and post pose animation. Um, this is um a way of animating where you have what they call post to pose and straight ahead. Now just see the example. This is what they call straight ahead animation, where you just draw the next frame, just keep drawing them frame by frame by frame. He's walking, his leg is moving like this. That's straight ahead. But post to pose means you draw the important poses first, then later you now fill in the gap, which is what we're having here. He first draws him, then he now draws the in between. His legs are like that. So that way, when you play them together, so this is post to pose, right? The character wants to jump over something. We first show him standing, then we show him maybe midway, then we show him landing. That's post to pose. Then after, we now put the in between. What should happen in between? Now, this, for example, is post to pose. So we're just drawing it frame by frame by frame by frame by frame by frame. So I would really recommend you that just go home and I will share the link, watch this video to really help you a lot. I'm just trying to rush through everything because we don't really have much time. This is what we should have talked about in the first week, but this is already the third week, so we don't really have much time. So we just have to quickly move ahead. So yeah, and another thing to straight ahead is also good for animating random things. So I guess I would leave that for now. So we can move on to the next thing. But I please go home and watch these videos. They will help you a lot. Okay. Let me see if there's anything I should talk about before I move on to the next thing. Probably stop sharing. Give me a minute, sorry. Okay. Am I still sharing? Can you see my screen? Okay, still sharing. Okay. All right. So what I would do now, I would have to round up this for now, but I will share this link with you. This should be more than enough to explain it. I would also give a takeaway assignment from it. So when we meet next time, we would show what we have basically. All these are different principles that we should learn. I believe that if you watch that video, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me on the group. I would answer your questions. But I will share that link to you so you can go home, watch it, really understand these principles and how they work. That should be a very good video to actually help you with that. So we have to move to the next thing because we have just how many minutes now? I want to end this meeting by 1. We have this 12:32, so we'll have to round up very soon. Okay. So we'll talk about storytelling as well. Something that we'll also discuss. But I guess as we proceed with our capstone project, I'll give you more insights because our next topic is going to really be on this aspect: composition, coloring, you know, color theory, layout, design, things like that. So we're actually going to go into that in our next class in depth. But what I want to just do today, I would, like I said, I want to have a brief introduction to After Effects and Blender. Like I said, it's just an introduction. I will share links with you. I will share resources with you. So when you leave here, please go and check them out, watch tutorials. I'm sure even on our portals we have videos that talk about After Effects and Blender. But this is just like a live demonstration that you can ask questions while we begin. So I think I'll start with After Effects. Um, so now what is After Effects? It's just a software that is used for motion graphics and majorly anything that has to do with animation and post-production is actually done with After Effects. Let me see. Let me disable this. So if you don't have this software installed on your system, please try and get it installed. I'll share the links as well, so you can download and install it on your system. If it doesn't, if your system cannot run the software, well, that would be. I think most systems can run this, so it should not be a problem. Most systems should. So this is actually going to be one of our major softwares in this course, for several reasons. But please just try and install this After Effects on your system if you don't have it installed before now. I will share the links with you, and if you need help, you can reach out to us on the group, and maybe even ask your colleagues if they already have it installed for any assistance too. But so this is After Effects. It's a software that we're going to use for animation for now. So I'm going to just give you a very brief introduction to what After Effects is and how to like get started with the software. It's a it has so many features that we cannot even finish in 1 month, honestly. It's so wide. People use it for adverts, motion graphics, cartoon animation, visual effects, video editing. So much. It's so wide. So what I'm just doing now is just to at least so that if you see After Effects, you can say, oh, okay, I know what this thing is. I can create a document, I can do something with it. So this is just a very 15-minute introduction what After Effects is. Like I said, what really benefits you is what you do after this class. It's not really what we do now. Because this is just a virtual call. I can only do so much for you. What will really help you is when you go back and you actually do your research and you practice these things, ask questions, engage with it, then you really, really, really benefit from it. So After Effects is a software that is very, very wide, it's very broad, but I guess we'll begin with how it looks, the from the basics. So now if you use Microsoft Word before or any software at all, you know that there's what they call all these toolbar menus here where you have file, you can create a new file, you can save, you can do several basic things here, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to just create a new project. So we're going to go to file, new project. That brings us to this place. Now, I'm going to now talk about the interface. What is happening or what's going on here? Now, this top bar are where you find most of your options. Everything you probably need will probably be here. Every single thing you need will most likely be here. We have file, we have edit, composition, layer, effect, animation, view, and window. Now this part of the screen here, you can see this left side of the screen where my mouse is hovering over. That's the project window. This is where we drag and drop our resources, our images, our videos, our animation files, things that we're working with are all going to be in this place, right? Then this is the main window where we actually create, animation and we can view it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just come and click new composition so we can have something tangible. Okay, so we have so we can see this menu here. So it's asking us for the settings. What do you want to create? What is the size of the document you want to create? So I'm going to just go with this option. So it means that the size of the window is going to be 1920 by 1080, which is the resolution, which is sort of like a standard size for video files, basically, like a landscape, landscape like your monitor, like your desktop monitor or your laptop. The view, you see the way it has a landscape view. This is sort of the standard size that we use. So just take note of that. Then we also have this. Just ignore this. This is more for if you're working with maybe more broadcasting, just ignore it. The default is fine. Frames per second. I know we didn't really talk about frames per second before now, but what that means is how many frames. I told you what a frame is now. It's like a drawing or an image, right?
Yes.
So now what they are saying is how many frames do you want to play per second? Now just imagine when we go back to this our drawing software. Imagine we have like 6 drawings here. So they are saying in 1 second, if I have 6 drawings now and I make it 24, this is 23, 24. So it means that if I were to drag these things to fit 24, that means that I will have 6 drawings, 6 frames, right? In 1 second. Now, normally we have 24 frames in a second. That means we have 24 drawings per second. So for 1 second to finish, that will mean that we have to do 24 different images or frames for 1 second to finish. Right? That's the way it works. That's the normal measurement. 24 frames per second. So imagine you were to make like a cartoon of like 3 minutes. Now be to do the maths. How many drawings you will need for 3 minutes of animation? That's like 60 times 3 times, just so you can see like a lot of drawings. A lot of drawings. That's if we're actually going to draw it, right? So basically, what we're saying is that how many frames do you want to be in a second? Now, like I said, the standard is 24. That's the standard 24. You can also go with other ones, 12, 8, I would just say that the lower you go, the more it looks a bit choppy. It looks like as if it was what's the word now? As if someone is skipping. It looks more obvious that it's skipped. I don't know how to say, but it's something that you have to see for yourself. But the standard is 24 because that's the balance. It just has a good balance. It looks good, right? So usually when you're drawing and doing animation, you always use 24 most of the time. So just leave that 24 frames per second. So these are all irrelevant for now. So most times we just come here, open After Effects, file, new project, then you click on a new composition. Most times, the default is actually very fine, actually. So all you do, you just press OK. Now, you see that I created this. You can see this here. This is the window we're going to be working with. This is the main window. And from here, is where we'll see everything that we are doing. Now you see that we created a new composition and it's saved here in our project window here. Like I said, everything that we're going to be working with in After Effects are all going to be here. They're all going to be here. They're all going to be. We can even let me import an image. Let me show what I'm talking about. So if I right click here, right click, import a file, right? Import. I can click and import an image. So let's say I want to import what now? Let me import this video. You see it appeared here. So whatever I want to have in After Effects, they're all going to be in this place. This is the project window. It's like a storage house for your files, basically. Then this part down here, this is more like the timeline. The same way we have a timeline. Now, what we call a timeline is where we see the frames in our animation. Every animation software has a timeline. You have to have a timeline. You have to know what frame you are on. You understand? So imagine we don't have a timeline. How will we be able to know how many frames and the duration? Like I said, this is already 24 frames per second. So this is 1 second here. But this is frame 24. Basically, this timeline is on every single software. This is a timeline where we can view the animation, go back and front. Same thing goes to After Effects. This is the timeline as well. This is another timeline, right? Every software has timeline. Even Blender we opened before where we're using 3D. This is the timeline. So you can see this. So they all have timelines. So the timeline is where you can literally play back your animation and look at the frames, So that's what the timeline is. Yeah. So this is the timeline for After Effects. Then this parts is where let me just ignore that. So this is where we have many options here. In fact, there are too many of them. But I guess the most important one is we have a character window where we used to adjust our text. We can access our fonts like the way you have on Microsoft Word and view your fonts. You can also adjust the settings, the size of the text, different other options like that, the color, so on and so forth. Then this is like the mother load of After Effects, the effects. So if I click on this option here, I can view the effects that come with After Effects. There are actually a lot of them. In fact, there are too many of them, which is why I will also share resources, and I would encourage that we also watch the video on After Effects in our portal to really understand, After Effects. But I also give very specific beginner tutorials that can also help you. Besides what we have there. So we have so many effects. Generate, open it, see this one. We have so many things that we obviously cannot exhaust now. But this is just a foundation, very quick crash course on After Effects. So how do we now, animate? How do we create things, in After Effects? We also have tools here. If you notice here, we have a toolbar here where you can create shapes. You click this, you can see that we can create coming. We have a rectangle tool, ellipse tool, star tool. These are all things we can draw. Let me give you an example. I can click and drag. Now we have a square in our window, right? We even have brush tool, we have text tool, pen tool, so many tools. And I will give you another more little let's say insights. Whenever you have a new object in this view here, they're going to appear on your timeline. So you can see that the shape that we created, this square we created now, it's here, shape layer, which is right here. So everything you would ever have that will show, because whatever is going to show here is what is going to be rendered out as your final video. So even if you have, let me drag this video that we imported before. Let me drag it here to my timeline. You should just click and drag, for example. So now it's on our window. You can see it here. You can see it here. So it's now going to appear here on your timeline, and it's going to be based on the hierarchy that we have here. So we have the shape layer above the video. That's why even on our window, we can see that the shape layer is above the video. If we want to switch, we just drag, let's drag this on down. And now the video is on top of the shape layer. So if I were to click this and move this, it's still there, it's just underneath it, right? So that's how we can import files. I can go over here again, right click, import file. I can import anything, a video, a picture, a music, anything. It will all appear there, right? Let's see, do I have any pictures here? Okay, let me import this. So I'll click this. Oh, okay, that's even a no. It didn't do that correctly. Let's try again. An error. Yeah. Let me disable this. Okay, so yeah, click this import. So now I'll drag and drop it here again. Same thing, we have that object here, second one here. So now the timeline is where we can, literally now play and say, oh, there's actually a video here. Let's see. So we can see what the video is about. All right. So this is the timeline. This is the timeline. So this is how you literally import files, you navigate the software in the timeline. Another thing too is that let's say you can actually zoom in and zoom out, right? With these options here, we have many options here. The one I'll talk about today is these two of them. We have this zoom tool where we can zoom into the view. Let's zoom in 100%. So you can see that it's zoomed in now. You know, we can use our hand tool here to move and look around, right? You can zoom out as well if it's too much, right? We also have this as well. This second option is for how much quality do you want this thing to view. Now it's reading at quarter resolution. That means if I zoom, let me zoom in a bit, 50%, or let me use 100%. Sorry, that would be more obvious. So you see how blurry it looks unclear somehow because we're actually using quarter resolution. Now this helps us play back our animation quicker, right? We can easily just play it back. But if we have full, let's change to full now. It's going to make it full, like full resolution. It's not going to, reduce any quality. So it's going to make it more difficult for us to play because it's higher quality, right? So let me change it back to quarter. You can see the difference. This is quarter. See how it's looking blurry, but then full. So this option is just for if you have a very slow system that cannot really run these things, because it requires more space and more RAM and everything. So if you have a very slow system, you just reduce this here so you can play back faster. Yeah. So I think I would end that for now. I mean, I just want to get you familiar with what After Effects is, right? And seeing how it works. These are literally the major things you will look at when you are using After Effects. We have the project menu, we have the main menu here, you have the effects, and you can also edit some text here, character. You also have your timeline as well, where you can see all the things that are on your window. You can zoom out, you know, let me make 25%. You also have several tools here to play with, to create, objects, you know, see all the options here. Change the color, change the color, you know, as you want. So there are so many tools that we have. Basically, um, this is just a very, 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 very brief introductory class. So I would encourage that you go back, and if you've not already watched the videos on After Effects, please do so. I will also share videos on this software as well to help you. You can go home and play with it. Just to get familiar with After Effects, because we're going to be working a lot with this software. So just it's good that you familiarize yourself with it now. Yeah, so I think that's what I'll end this for now on this. The last thing I'll talk about today is Blender. Now, obviously, if you know Blender, it's not something I can talk about in it's a full software. And because we came quite late, that's why we are rushing like this. Normally we should have actually done this properly. But we just make do what we have for now. So I will share more resources. Please go home, watch them, read about it. If you have questions, ask on the group. Yeah. So let me show you Blender. Just a very, 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 very brief introduction. I'll also share the link to download this as well. So you have Blender, the same thing with After Effects. We have the main menu here where you can view everything in 3D, right? Because Blender is actually a 3D animation software for creating 3D animations. So um we have tools, right? We have tools here. You can move, rotate, or scale. So you can click any object. This is a camera, this is a cube, and say, oh, let's move it somewhere else. You can move it, right? Very, very simple. This is our main menu. Then this is sort of like the same way we had After Effects, where we had effect or things like that. We have many options here that we can actually adjust, on any object, right? Just know that there are a lot of tools here. There are a lot of tools here that we will actually explore later on. Then the same thing, we also have a timeline as well. In Blender, this is also our timeline where we can view our animation if we have any animation. Then we can also rotate. We can rotate around the camera view. If you have a mouse, you can use your middle mouse button. You click it and you rotate. Or if you don't have a mouse, you can use this option here too. You just click anywhere and drag it to rotate around the 3D space. Which other thing again? I think the major thing that we would talk about, we've already talked about the animation aspect. I'm just introducing you to Blender. This is Blender. This is how it looks like. So you will not be scared, right? It's actually very simple. You can also zoom in and zoom out. You have the options here. Zoom in, click this, drag, zoom in, zoom out. We can move the hand tool, the same with After Effects. Then this is the camera. So we have a 3D camera here. Where is that camera? I actually have a 3D camera because this is a 3D software, fully 3D. So it has many features, which is one of them, which is a 3D camera. So we can actually view things from the camera, as you can see. We can see what the camera is seeing by clicking this button, and we can see that we're actually looking at this thing like this, right? We can change it from perspective to orthographic. This is currently perspective. Perspective is what we see in real life, but orthographic is a sort of fake, projection of 3D, where there is no vanishing points, everything is all flat. So if you look at a perspective view, these lines recede into the distance to the point that we can't see them again. But if we change to orthographic view, it's all just flat, right? It's more for architectural stuff. So this is just ignore it, basically. So these are some of the very, very brief. This is very, very brief, just to get your hands. Okay, this is actually what this is about over here. We're going to actually have a deep dive on all these things after now. So this is Blender. Watch videos about it. I will send you videos. Please do your research. If you have questions, I'm there to answer your questions. Also reach out to your colleagues as well. I'm sure some of them actually have experienced some of these things, probably. Yeah, I think for now we'll be done. I think we're done. I want to end by 1 p.m. So if you have any questions, please, I think you can ask your questions now before I round up this session.
This Blender. This is Blender. This should be Blender version 20 now. But mine, the current system I have only accepts 19, and it's not. The interface is quite different from this. Will still be able to follow with that?
Okay, you have an older version of Blender, right?
I think 19 points. Also.
No, you mean 2.7 or something, probably.
Okay. Yes.
Whatever the case may be, it's fine. You can still follow along.
Yeah, but all this control on this new version is not the same with that one.
It's not. Some of them are not exactly the same, but you could still be able to follow.
Somewhere.
But I would also. Have you tried the newer one though? I know that it should work on other systems as well.
The newer one. Initially, I've been learning Blender before now, so the new one didn't work. So I've been using the older one to do.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You should be able to follow along. That's fine. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Please let us not feel overwhelmed. Because we have to literally just run through many things today. There's actually a lot to be covered. But like I said, don't feel overwhelmed. It's actually very interesting being an animator, and something that you actually have a that you have a privilege of learning with other people. Some of us didn't have this experience or privilege, So I feel like you are in a very good place to actually be way more productive than you have ever been. Learning aside someone that can assist you, and also people that are also learning with you as well. So please make use of what you have for the time being. And I believe that by the time we're done with this course, many of us will have a lot of understanding into the foundations and the fundamental of animation to actually work, or intern in a company, from there. So as we round up now, I would share some of the things that we'll be doing, sort of like a takeaway assignment, so that when we meet next time, we can see what you've done and discuss it, right? So I guess the first thing is that I will need us to go back home and just go home, and we talked about animation, right? We talked about different kinds of animation. I want you to show me examples of animation, right? Give me examples, like the way I told you that Tom and Jerry is 2D animation, So give me more examples of real world animation that you can identify. Go on Google and browse them, right? So I want you to just list out for me, 10 different, sorry, I said 10, 5 different animation. You list out 5 of 2D, 5 of 3D, and 5 of stop motion, right? Give me examples that we can see and say, oh, okay, that's true, right? So that's the first thing. Then secondly, please, I want you guys to practice the 12 animation principles. Now, how will you practice? However, you can use a pen and paper. If you have a drawing tablet, you can draw on your system. If whatsoever, if you want to use stop motion animation, you want to use your phone to record something, just anything that you have at your disposal, please use it. I will share that video with you, so please go home, watch it, digest it, understand it. If you have questions, feel free to ask. But I want you to go home and actually practice using the principles. Just practice anything, right? And let's see what you can come up with in the next class. Just be very creative. You don't have to have a powerful laptop, just be creative. However, even if you don't even have laptop now per se, right? You can use anything. So just be very, very creative. So that's the second thing. Then the last thing, I want you to also play with After Effects and Blender. Like I said, I will share very useful resources that you would use to learn the basics of Blender. If you have questions, still reach out to me. So I want you to just play with Blender, play with After Effects, open a file, close a file, import a file, just play with it, follow the tutorials, and let's see, by next class, hopefully you would have been a little bit more, would have sort of understood, at least, we're familiar with the interface, right? From there, we can now keep building on it. So those are what I want you to do, those three things. By our class next week, we'll see how far, and we'll build upon that next week. So if there's no other question, I think we can call it a day. Like I said, please feel free to ask questions on the group, interact, and engage with these things after now. So thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll talk on the group. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.